Hey guys, Ultra Maximus here. Like my videos? Please consider buying me a coffee. Thank you so much for the support. It helps me continue making content that you enjoy. Hey guys, Ultra Maximus back with another video, another top 10 list, and today I wanted to talk about the top 10 R-rated movies that actually got children's cartoons, which when you think about is crazy, but in reality it's a marketing thing. The movie was super popular, they were toyetic, and they could market a cartoon to sell those toys. Now, the first example here is Chuck Norris and the Karate Commandos. This actually wasn't based off any one particular Chuck Norris movie, but I think it was a few of them, and, well, his movies were all super hardcore, R-rated action fests, and I think this is what kind of started the meme of Chuck Norris. But let's go ahead and jump in there and see what made my top 10 list. Number 10 is going to go to Kid and Play. Now, this was released in 1990 by Saban Entertainment on NBC and was basically made because House Party came out that year and was a huge popular movie, and it was, well, basically an R-rated film about a ghetto house party and the shenanigans that took place over the evening. And yeah, they turned it into a kids movie because Kid and Play were super hot back then. Now, this didn't last very long. It only lasted one season with 13 episodes, and I barely remember this being on television, and, well, there's a good reason. It was based off of House Party featuring Kid and Play. Number 9 is going to go to Swamp Thing. So this was put out by Dick Entertainment in 1990 on Fox Kids on the Fox network, and it was 2 seasons long, and it was based off the Swamp Thing movie franchise, which was Swamp Thing 1 in 1982 and Swamp Thing Returns, I believe, in 1989, and it was a pretty graphic movie, especially the first one, which was crazy, but this cartoon series was super big on commercializing the toys. They had a big popular toy line by Kenner at the time, and that's what this was a big commercial to sell those toys. And I gotta say, the toys are actually kind of fun in those 90s kind of Kenner toy ways. My number 8 pick is going to go to Police Academy, the series, the animated series, and this came out in 1988 from Warner Brothers and was syndicated across the country on multiple networks. Again, much like Swamp Thing, the whole point to this show was to sell the Police Academy toys that came out in the late 80s, and it was based off of the series Police Academy, the movies that were crazy, boob-filled, raunchy, crude humor, although I will say by the end of the series, it kind of got much less crude. In fact, I think it was PG-13 by the end of the run, but in the 80s, all of us kids watched these movies, and of course, all of our favorite characters appeared in this show. Number 7 spot is going to go to Roughneck's Starship Troopers Chronicles. Now, this was a 1999 syndication television show from Sony Pictures. It was a CGI cartoon which started getting really big in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. I remember Beast Wars reboot, and then this came along, and the animation for the CG is actually pretty decent. And of course, it's based off of the film Starship Troopers, which is super violent and gory, and it's got nudity randomly in there, and really wasn't for kids, but it was so cheesy that the younger audience kind of latched onto it more, I think, than the older audience. and it was made by the same guy that did Robocop. And they had a lot of Starship Trooper toys out at the time, so this was a great plot device to sell those toys. Now, it only lasted one season, and I've never actually seen it, so it was probably for the best. The number 6 spot is going to go to Highlander, the animated series. Now, this came out in 1994 from Bobot Entertainment and aired on the USA Network for 2 seasons. And this was one of those kind of really weird type of cartoons because it's obviously based off the Highlander series, and they got super popular they were popular at the beginning, but they got really popular towards the late 80s to early 90s. But the goofiest thing I always thought about this cartoon was the whole thing was there can only be one, and the Highlander goes around and you got to chop the head off of the other immortals. So they get into these duels and cut each other's heads off, which they obviously didn't do in the cartoon series, which would have been kind of weird. But yeah, the super high popularity of Highlander at the time, and I'm pretty sure that this was another commercialized effect to sell action figures, so they could sell the Highlander toys to kids. The number 5 spot is going to go to Conan the Adventurer, which came out in 1992 for 2 seasons from Sunbow Productions and was a syndicated show across the country. And it came out about a time when, like, Hercules, the legendary adventures, and Xena was getting popular, and it's based off of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. Look at those skulls, they're crazy. And, of course, the comic books, but, yeah, a lot based on those Arnold Schwarzenegger type of movies. And it's just kind of weird, and a very weird time for it to come out. I think they, had run through, like, G.I. Joe, because you get a lot of the same voice actors in there, which is pretty darn cool. But it kind of hits that He-Man niche, it hits that Hercules and Xena niche, and, of course, the big thing is to sell toys. The number 4 pick is going to go to Tales from the Crypt Keeper. This was a Saturday morning cartoon from Warner Brothers Television that started in 1993 for 3 seasons on CBS, and it was kind of a watered-down version of Tales from the Crypt on HBO, which was a super huge mature TV show with boobs and gore galore based on the EC Comics, and of course the 2 R-rated films. Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood. And yeah, this was just kind of a weird, odd cartoon. I guess it was trying to go for maybe the Scooby-Doo type of vibes. And they had the original Crypt Keeper voice actor, which was pretty cool. And they actually had toys for the cartoon as usual. The number 3 pick is going to go to Rambo, the Force of Freedom. Now, this was put out by Corolco Pictures in 1986. It was a syndication show across the country, and of course, it was based off of the uber popular Rambo movie franchise of the 80s with Sylvester Stallone, which are super gory. So many blood kills. Probably, like, that's what people think of is an action film of just killing people. That's Rambo. And they made it a kid's cartoon in the 80s. And it's got a very G.I. Joe type of vibe, which isn't surprising because it's Rambo. And of course, they had a toy line for these out in the mid-80s. Now, this only lasted for 1 season, and, well, that was probably 1 season enough. At least they could sell some of the toys, but yes, a very G.I. Joe vibe. The number 2 spot is going to go to Robocop, the animated series, and this was an Orion Pictures television Marvel production in 1988 that was syndicated across the country, and it ran for 1 season and was obviously based off the super violent Robocop films, but all of us kids loved them in the 80s, and of course they had to sell the toys. But I do remember this coming on like in the late afternoons in the 80s, and yeah, I had a couple of those Robocop toys, and they had the little caps with the gunpowder in the back of them, and I can still smell that toy. Now, before we take a look at the number 1 spot, let's give an honorable mention to Operation Aliens. Now, this was a cartoon that was supposed to come out from Acom Production in 1992. It was unfortunately never released, based off of the very violent and bloody Aliens franchise, but the sole reason for this was to sell the Aliens toys in the mid-90s by Kenner, along with the Predator toys. They kind of ran side by side, and the whole concept was that they bred the aliens with different animals, so they had to go and round these up. They were like bulls and gorillas and praying mantises and all kinds of stuff. And to be honest, it sounds like it would have been a really cool cartoon, but it never got picked up. I so could have seen this on Fox, but we at least did get the toys and a comic book out of it. And the number 1 spot is going to go to the Toxic Crusaders. Now, this was a series from Truman Entertainment in 1991 that was syndicated across the country and lasted for only 1 season. However, it was huge competition to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at the time. But it's so funny because, the Toxic Avenger movies, I mean, they were nothing but boobs and super 80s gore, and yeah, they made it a kid show. It's crazy, and a pretty popular toy line in the 90s. I think the toy line did way better than the actual cartoon did, and it was the competition to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So there it is, 10 R-rated movies turned into kids' cartoons. What did I miss? Leave a comment down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching. To watch more Ultra Maximus, click on the links to the right. Be sure to click all the things, subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell for new videos, and follow me on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Links in the description below.